Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a really compelling stack of sources that seem to challenge two huge narratives at once.
That's right. We've got a high-profile investigation involving Charlie Kirk on one hand.
And on the other, these really chilling allegations of military intelligence infiltration deep inside civilian movements.
So our mission today is to guide you through this. We're going to focus on two things. First, we'll dissect all the anomalous data points in the shooting investigation.
The things that just don't add up.
Exactly. And second, we'll analyze these really shocking claims about specialized military intelligence training. Training allegedly focused on infiltrating Christian organizations, all centered around Fort Huachuca.
Let's start with a very specific, almost forensic detail from the photos of Charlie's SUV. The sources say they were immediately struck by these little bits of black plastic fragmentation.
Right. They're described as looking like, shards of tempered glass or a broken iPhone screen.
And they were scattered all over the back rear floor of the vehicle.
It's a tiny detail, but it's the kind of thing that makes you ask questions right away. The sources use it to wonder if something else broke inside the car.
You mean other than just the bullet?
Yeah, was it something on Charlie? Or was something, and this is their word, rigged inside the vehicle? It just opens a door to possibilities beyond the official story.
Okay, so let's unpack that official story because it really relies heavily on the weapon, right? The story is that a high-caliber hunting rifle, a .30-06, was used by the shooter, Tyler Robinson.
It does. But the problem is the surgical details we have just don't seem to support that.
How so?
Well, the surgeon who actually worked on Charlie never confirmed it was a .30-06. In fact, he never even suggested it.
He didn't. What did he suggest?
He suggested a frangible bullet might have been used, which is, a totally different kind of ammunition. It's designed to break apart on impact.
Wait, a frangible bullet. Why is that so important? I mean, wouldn't that create a completely different type of wound?
That's the whole point. It's a massive contradiction. A .30-06 is meant to do catastrophic damage. A frangible bullet, much less so.
So the injury wouldn't match the weapon.
Exactly. And this, according to the sources, completely undermines the alleged motive for Turl Farnsworth rushing to remove that camera behind Charlie's head.
The camera that would have shown the injury.
Right. If a high-caliber round hadn't caused the huge damage everyone would expect, seeing that on camera would have debunked the whole .30-06 story instantly.
So the forensics seem to undermine the official narrative. What about the eyewitnesses?
Well, that's just as problematic. We have one lone confirmed eyewitness, and get this, he's a professional gun range instructor.
Okay, so he knows what he's looking at.
He knows what he's looking at. And he saw the shooter on the Loiba Center rooftop before the sound of the shot.
And what did he see?
He described the weapon as a shorter .223 rifle.
Which is not the weapon they found.
Not at all. And the person was wearing black tactical gear, a face mask. He said they looked professional.
So you have the only person who actually saw the perpetrator, and his testimony contradicts the official story on almost every point.
Every key point. And what's really telling, the sources claim that this witness, he hasn't been contacted by lawyers or investigators from either side.
He hasn't been contacted, but the probable cause hearing is coming up in May. That just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, unless, as the sources allege, you're deliberately avoiding testimony that would dismantle your entire case against the suspect you have.
Which brings us to the physical evidence, the gun itself. The sources describe the handling of that as, let's say, highly unusual.
That's putting it mildly. First, the bomb dogs. They crawled all over the area where the gun was eventually found, and they found nothing. It was only found later, after some lucky feds apparently directed local officers to the exact spot.
That feels a little too convenient.
It gets stranger. Once they found the gun, they never gave it to the dogs to trace the scent back to the rooftop.
Why would you not do that? That's basic tracking.
You'd think so. It's a huge procedural lapse. It's almost as if they didn't want to know where the person who held that gun had been.
And what about the vehicle he was taken to the hospital in?
Not impounded, which is, again, just unbelievable from an evidence preservation standpoint.
So the chain of custody is a mess.
A complete mess. And on top of that, the gun itself had multiple sets of prints on it, not just Tyler Robinson's.
Wow, and then there's the story of how Robinson was apprehended. We were told his parents turned him in.
The sources say that story was BS. They allege he only came in peacefully after he was threatened with a door break-in.
And the footage of him surrendering.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Local Utah news was told the footage had expired. And even weirder, the officers on scene were apparently told not to look at him, to avoid the cameras when he arrived.
It's like they were managing an asset, not arresting a suspect. And this federal involvement, it goes right to the hospital, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Federal agents physically stopped the surgeon from going back into the operating room.
They stopped a surgeon.
Yep. He had to call D.C. to get it sorted out, delaying care, and then they just took the hospital's surveillance footage. They just walked out with it.
So you have federal agents controlling the medical response and removing evidence from a private hospital. That's a whole other level.
It points to something far more coordinated than just a local crime.
Okay, let's step back. We have a pile of forensic anomalies, a key witness being ignored, bizarre evidence handling. Oh, it feels like a cover-up. But how do the sources connect this one incident to military intelligence training at Fort Huachuca? That seems like a massive leap.
The link, according to them, is the pattern. They argue that a local cover-up of this scale only works if you have a pre-existing infrastructure of assets already in place.
A network.
A network.
Yeah.
And that's what brings us to these allegations about Fort Huachuca.
So let's pivot there. Our sources identify Fort Huachuca not as a typical combat base, but as a dedicated intelligence base. Army Military Intelligence Training, or MIT.
Right. And it's a place where, they say, civilians can be brought in, take courses, and essentially be turned into intelligence assets.
And the central allegation here is this idea of faith infiltration.
Yes, it's a theme the sources say they've seen over and over again. You have these Christian influencers or heads of conservative media companies who suddenly appear.
And when you look into their background,
they're former military or naval intelligence, and they suddenly adopt these very intense Judeo-Christian platforms. The source material is blunt. It says faith has been infiltrated by the military.
And we have some specific testimony that seems to support this, right? From someone living near the base in Sierra Vista.
We do. A gym owner. They ran an openly Christian, faith-based gym, and they recount this hostile takeover of their business that started around 2013, 2015.
A takeover by whom?
By a couple who were explicitly associated with the base. At the time, it was just a business dispute, but looking back, the owner now wonders if it was a training exercise, a field assignment. And that suspicion is corroborated by an encounter they had at that same gym with a very distressed military student.
And what did the student say?
This is pretty disturbing. She was taking a class on the base, taught by a guy named Bruce Bevins. And the objective of the class, she said, was to teach military personnel how to infiltrate Christian groups.
Infiltrate how?
Through covert psychological operations, specifically focusing on how to deceive Christians, how to build and maintain false personas to gain their trust.
So they were literally being taught how to lie to people of faith to get inside their organizations.
Yes. And it wasn't just classroom theory. She described an overnight field mission to Tucson, where they had to go to bars and public places and deceive civilians.
As a test.
As a test, practicing their false personas, their lies. The source says they would come back and laugh about their conquests, which sometimes even included sexual encounters. It's really dark stuff.
That context makes the shooting incident feel very different. Now let's bring in the whistleblower, Mitch. His story seems to tie all of this together by accident.
It does. And his background is important. This is a guy whose life was ruined after he exposed a huge cartel tunnel in the 90s that involved compromised U.S. officials. So he's no stranger to this world.
And he was originally trained at Fort Huachuca himself.
He was. And he went back there on September 8th and 9th trying to get his original records for his old case. And he just stumbles right into the middle of something.
So tell us what he saw. September 8th at the Candlewood Inn on base.
He sees two people who just stick out. A man he describes as an ex-Special Forces type, and a woman who was very well kept, dressing down, with what he called striking blue eyes and a ponytail. They left in a GSA vehicle, a standard government car.
Okay. Then the next morning, September 9th.
He's at the Joint Task Force headquarters, the JTF HQ, a very high-level command center. And while he's waiting, he sees a high-level meeting breaking up. The same ex-SF guy from the night before walks out. He's followed by three other people, including one guy who looked, to Mitch, exactly like a congressman, right down to the flag pin on his lapel.
And they all get into a GSA vehicle.
Escorted by military personnel, yes.
And the reaction to Mitch just being there, seeing this, that's what's so revealing.
It's immediate, and it's overwhelming. The second that VIP group is gone, Mitch is surrounded. Cruisers pull up. He's interrogated, accused of being a spy, a bomb threat.
And they kept telling him he had to get off the base.
For exactly 24 hours, a very specific time frame. The response was completely disproportionate, suggesting they were terrified of what he might have seen.
And here's the kicker. After the fact, Mitch starts seeing people in the news.
Yes. And this is what connects everything. He identifies the XSF guy from that high-level meeting with 95 to 99% certainty
As who?
as Dryan Harpole, the head of security for Turning Point USA.
The victim's own head of security.
Yes. And the woman with the striking blue eyes from the night before, he identifies her with the same level of certainty as Erica Kirk,
Charlie Kirk's wife.
based on an older photo of her with a ponytail. And he also identified a picture of Congressman Mark from Las Vegas as potentially being the congressman he saw there.
And this all happened on a day when there was confirmation of a heavy-duty flight landing at the base with its transponder switched off.
Exactly, suggesting a covert VIP visit was, in fact, happening.
So what does this all mean when you put it together? The sources are painting a picture where the official story of a shooting is just falling apart under forensic scrutiny.
Right, suggesting a cover-up at the local level.
And that local story is then placed into this much larger, much more disturbing context of military intelligence actively training people to infiltrate and deceive the very type of organization that was targeted.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, the sources aren't just saying this is an isolated crime. They're saying it's a manifestation of a systemic infiltration. You have key figures from the victim's own circle meeting at a high-level intelligence base on the very day of the event.
It suggests that the critical thinking you apply to the news has to go deeper. You can't just scrutinize events, you have to scrutinize the institutions, even the movements that you think you can trust.
It really raises a tough question, doesn't it? If the very institutions that are supposed to protect you, law enforcement, military intelligence, if they appear to be co-opting movements or covering up facts, as these sources allege, where do you even begin to look for the truth?
What's your safest path to find out what's really going on?
Let me leave you with this final thought from the sources. They mention the concept of the Truman Show. If military intelligence is actively training operatives to use psychological operations to deceive and infiltrate faith-based groups, what civilian platform or what movement is actually safe from being compromised or even completely orchestrated from the outside? It suggests that your ability to tell who is genuine and who is just an actor, well, that might be the most important skill you have.